What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with the overall market, what you should be watching for moving forward. I'm also going to talk about NIO, Tesla, SPY, Nvda, and a couple of other tickers very briefly, and break down what the charts are suggesting for all these different tickers. But before breaking things down, all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I'm firstly not a financial planner, so take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. The offer ends very soon, and it's in just about 9 days, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's break down what's going on with the market and NIO. NIO is down 1.15% for the day. It also is down this is about another 5% in the after hours. It's continuing to drop quite a bit and it's looking relatively weak. But what's going on with the market, what's going on with NIO, that's going to be very important and worth mentioning as well. As far as the market moves, I just want to remind everyone that the market is going to be affected by the FOMC meeting for Wednesday. Whatever Jerome Powell says is going to cause a lot of volatility. Approaching the big events, we might see some sideways price action from the markets. And NIO, on the other hand, is looking a little bit weaker because we have some tensions going on around the world. There's some big news coming out involving China and Taiwan. I don't really want to talk too much into detail about it, but I just want to mention that it's not good whatsoever. Most people, if anything, the large majority of people, we want peace. We don't want any more wars. We don't want anyone to get hurt. We don't want innocent people to be hurt or anything like that. And seeing tensions like this rising it's just not good news. So with this going on and this affecting the relationships between countries, not to mention other things going on with NIO, this is all very, very important stuff. And, politics does get in the way. It's something that could be very dirty. Now, when it comes to economic data, there are still some signs of contraction in China, and this has had an effect on NIO. But as of right now, there have been a few signs of improvement, which could be helping it. Now, but I just want to remind everyone that for NIO as a company, it's not necessarily NIO's fault. When we look at NIO, okay, they have the EC6, and with this new vehicle that came out, it looks very, very nice, and they have so much bullish news that's continuing to come out. NIO has launched a refreshed EC6 SUV. It's starting under $50,000 USD, and deliveries are already underway, which is some more bullish news. Now, historically, September tends to be a decent month for NIO's deliveries. October tends to be a little bit weaker, at least throughout the markets, but then we tend to get very, very strong Novembers and Decembers when it comes to deliveries. So that's what's on the table right now. Seeing how NIO is being affected by all of these pieces of news, it's not really the end of the world for it because it's not NIO's fault. NIO did not do something so horrible to cause the share price to crash. NIO didn't, cut prices like crazy or do anything that insane as of right now. So it's not necessarily their fault. So if it's not NIO's fault, why is it dropping? That's because of external factors. I want to make that as clear as possible. It's not even NIO's fault. So we shouldn't be attacking NIO amidst all these pieces of news. So when it comes to NIO, I just want to mention a couple of things. Historically, NIO does tend to sell off during the month of September. We tend to see it a little bit weaker during September through October because the whole market tends to sell off during that period. Now, not all of October has to be weak. We could be weak for part of October before we start recovering. But November and December tend to be a lot stronger for the whole market in NIO. And NIO tends to do even better in January as they approach NIO Day. So there is still a lot of potential for this stock as we approach the end of this year. We're getting closer and closer to the very bullish period, in my opinion. I still think there's so much potential to come. The price-price ratio is increasing, so we're starting to see more strength for NIO, and it's right here. And then we can also see the price comparison between them. NIO is underperforming just a little bit because of these external factors. Now, on top of this, there's no major change going on in the short interest for the company, which is a good sign. And simultaneously, NIO's volume was about 21 million, a little bit less than average, nothing too crazy. And overall, when it comes to short volume, I would say that it's still kind of flat right now. So when it comes to everything, I just want to mention that NIO has been doing well as a company fundamentally, but the share price is still continuing to drop. There's a bullish divergence trying to develop on the MACD, but the RSI isn't really giving us the same signal as it's still looking weak. Now, right now, we're seeing NIO sell off quite a bit. I just want to mention that NIO is still looking weak, and we might see, I don't know if we're going to see a full recovery by the time we open. It looks like NIO may see some critical downside coming. Now, I just want to mention that we have this support right here at 9.5. For tomorrow, there's a good chance that NIO is going to end up gapping down around this like very low $10 area. And then we might see NIO sink towards the mid nines because the chart is looking very weak. It's continuing to downtrend and it's still not looking that strong, especially on the 4 hour time frame. We just have a bearish cross that happened on the PPO. Despite the fact that it's trying to develop a bullish divergence, it is still not looking that great. So seeing it selling off in the after hours, there's a risk of NIO potentially coming down. I want to warn everyone about this, and please be very careful nonetheless. However, on SPY, there is an attempt to bounce that is forming as we have a potential inverse head and shoulders, and we could see this thing try to push up for 444.5. But we need to break above the 50 EMA to turn more bullish, then we could get to 446. As of right now, we haven't done that, so there's a good chance this is just going to chop around a bit or at least try to break out. But it's kind of failing so far. It's getting a little weak as it's failing to do that. So there is going to be an attempt to break out tomorrow. We might just see sideways price action and around that like 444 area to try to get to 446. And then we're going to be watching what happens after FOMC on Wednesday as we have Jerome Powell speaking. So I think that there is potential for some upside, especially thanks to Aapl, which announced that their sales for the pre-orders are just going up like crazy. There's most definitely potential for it, but I just want everyone to be careful nonetheless. Finally, for Tesla, I just want to mention that Tesla is looking kind of weak. We have a potential bearish wedge developing on it, which could lead to more downside. There's a chance Tesla could hit 267, but it's looking weak to me, and there is a risk of it dropping lower, at least overall on the bigger time frames. One support to watch for on the 4 hour time frame is going to be the 50 EMA. If this breaks, we're going to see Tesla start sinking below 260. If that breaks, we're going to see Tesla fill the gap all the way down to about 249. So it could start sinking a lot harder, and there's a risk of Tesla coming down. Now, with this double bearish divergence playing out, this is a big risk for Tesla. Tesla could make an attempt to try to rebound a little bit. I mean, it is a possibility we retest like 267 to almost 270, and then we start dropping later on. My gut tells me it's either going to do that or it's just going to start sinking. It's looking weaker right now, especially on the 4 hour. I want everyone to be very careful with a stock like this. For Aapl has this potential accumulation. We're going to be watching this thing get very close to this 180 area. It is starting to show more life as it's trying to hold up after getting some bullish news. Aapl may try to get the market to pump a little bit in the morning, but we're going to be watching Aapl stall or at least fight for that 180 resistance. We're going to be watching to see if Aapl could get there. Now, we got this rejection right here around this 179 area as Aapl failed to really like hold. So we're going to be watching if Aapl could try to get back to like 180 before cooling off. Overall, there's a slight uptrend that's starting on it. So there could be potential for it to get very close to 180 before either rejecting or trading sideways, which means the market may try to pop a little bit more, then start dropping. Similar to the QQQ, may try to pop as well as we have a potential inverse head and shoulders. But we need to see it close above 372 to turn more bullish. As of right now, it hasn't done that. It keeps getting rejected. So we're going to be watching that very carefully. So anyways, I went over the majority of the stocks out there. Most stocks out there are looking like they could pop a little bit, but there could be more downside coming for the medium term, despite some small and short-term upside. And with that said, NIO is going to be the next very important one to watch, at least right now. NIO is looking very weak in the after hours, and today just wasn't a very good day as we have a bearish cross on the PPO. Watch for it to be very close to 10. If that fails, this is going to start sinking even lower. We have this new low that developed, the lowest we've seen NIO since earnings. It is looking more bearish. We have this big downtrend, and overall, unfortunately, NIO is not looking the best, to be honest with all of you. Now, it was trying to get a balance on the daily, but the daily is still not looking good, especially with this daily candlestick. I could see more room for downside, and I think the odds greatly favor that. So anyways, when you look at the weekly, it's starting to turn a little bit more bearish too. Could see a little bit more selling, and we actually have a potential head and shoulders developing on the weekly. It's looking weak, to be honest with you all. Is it NIO's fault fundamentally? No, NIO's deliveries have been getting stronger. But when things happen to the overall economy of China and with politics, it is what it is. Not a whole lot I can do about it. All right, guys. So anyways, I thank you all so much for listening. We'll see what happens to NIO moving forward. Watch it retest around the 10 area, maybe a little bit below 10, and then see if it rejects. Then we're going to be watching support very carefully as NIO could start to drop even lower as it's looking more bearish. Okay? So there could be more downside. We could see NIO get very close to $9 flat soon. 9.5 soon. And if that fails us, it can make a new low and start downtrending. Okay? That's my honest opinion. Watch 9.5 very carefully and watch 10 as resistance. We'll see where NIO goes, and 9.5 could be a good target. Thank you. Have a good one, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. NIO to the moon, because the long term is still very bright despite these short-term pressures, and peace out.